wrapping up, we've been kind of going, I wouldn't say it's not a book study because we did go through the MREI book, but we also like did all the exercises and everything as we went through there, and we were getting to the end. And so I knew Erica had a lot of success teaching wealth up in Boise, and her and Darrow are passionate about teaching wealth in general. And so I called her for advice. And I'm like, what do we do next? We've kind of worked our way through the MREI. And so she hopped on a Zoom with me for a while, which is awesome. And then at the end, she was like, oh, you know, I'm going to be in town next week. Why don't I help you implement some of these changes and stuff? So super excited to have you guys here. Hopefully you guys will hear kind of what this group is about, as well as some stuff you can take away from today. And we'd love to see you guys back. We talked about this. We're looking here at this office for a group of 10 to 20 committed people who want to go through this process here over the next months of wealth building and talk, having those conversations that are going to get kind of heavy. I will turn it over to you because I know we want to hear you as much as possible. And by the way, this is part of we have a two-part series today. We've got you and Darrow talking here at working on wealth from 1 to 2. And then at 2 o'clock, Minnie's got a mastermind that's also going to be all about agent finances as well with the speaker who was at the LC retreat in Palm Springs, who's Kimberly Michelle. Phenomenal speaker. I was shaking tons of minutes. So hopefully you guys will be there for that as well. Hey, Darrow, come on up. We got a seat for you as well.
I want to interrupt you.
No.
I see people up here too.
Yeah, we've got a crowd of blended in person. So just this is the main, Darrow, this is the main camera here. The laptop here in front of you is where the main camera is, even though the microphone is behind you.
Nice.
High tech we are.
Oh, so I think was waving at the wrong camera.
No, they'll see it that one too. That one
Do it around you.
Yeah, that's all I do. So by the way, I was super excited because not only did Erica say that she'll be here to talk to you guys about working on wealth, she said, oh, by the way, Darrow's going to be here as well. And if you guys don't know, Darrow is an amazing investor, realtor, just amazing wealth person to be talking to, and happens to be one of the contributors to the MREI book that many of us have been coming weekly, just finished reading. So that's pretty cool. When they were talking about, the investors we've interviewed with, many of them say this or that. Darrow was one of those people saying those things. That's pretty cool for us.
You look at the pile of people in the picture in the book,
Yeah.
you'll find him. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, I will stop talking because no one cares what I have to say. We all want to hear what you guys have to say.
Okay, well, so I'm going to just start with the conversation that we had. We know that you've been doing, I guess each of you in turn has been doing an investment analysis, and you're sharing this as a group, and that's fantastic. Colin, are you invisible? She was in stealth mode. But in the course of the conversation we had, what really happened was that in talking with Ed, I began to suspect that the best use of our time would be for me to come in and really cover things that are more fundamental and foundational, because I find teaching around the time that I have been in the last couple of decades that even if people are investors, even if they know how to analyze an investment and know numbers, if I poke and drill long enough, I'll usually find that most often, the basics are missing. And so what I like to do is just build a strong foundation and start there. And then the property analysis and investment analysis is so great. But if you don't build on top of a really strong foundation, then that's where we see people getting in trouble. And often when Darrow and I coach people, they can have multiple properties, but when we really start drilling down, they don't really know what to look for, and often they're already in trouble and don't even know it. Sometimes they're just losing so slowly they think they're winning, and they have negative cash flow and really not. So I think just building from a very strong foundation is important and critical. And every one of us here hopefully is in this room and in this business to fund your perfect life, right? We're not in business. We're not in the world to be realtors. We're in the business to fund that perfect life through real estate. So let's just do that. And Darrow, after I do the things that I want to run through, then Darrow's going to talk about or answer any questions you have on property analysis. Because honestly, I don't buy anything without him getting his eyes on it. He has what I say more angles than a pool table. Honestly, you'll see just
In so many ways.
in so many ways. Those who know him well know what I mean. But he's just these things that other people don't, and has been instrumental in our wealth building in spotting great investments that turn into even better investments over time and keeping us out of falling into the pitfalls that I've seen so many other people fall into. Fair enough?
Yeah.
Okay. Then let's just start with the 5 laws of financial integrity. If you guys have all this done and down, good for you, great. And if you don't, just make a list. And then I'd like you at some point, either later today or tomorrow, put it in priority order of the things you want to check off. Right? So if you have it done, great. If you don't, write it down and make the decision to check it off. So we're going to talk about, we're heading into the recession, which I don't think is a terrible thing. Hopefully you agree. It creates more opportunity for agents who are doing the fundamentals, building a strong foundation, and the people who aren't are just going to go away, so that you have an opportunity for additional market share. And in the end, we'll come out of the recession. How long does that usually take?
2 years.
Yeah, 18 months, 2 years. And those of you who do the right thing will come through it and gain even more market share. So you're going to be in an even better position. So I look at it as more of an opportunity than a threat, as long as we handle it properly. And so let's talk about the 5, first of all, I'm very ADHD, so I will work from notes. And if you're a pen clicker, throw your pen in the hole. It just will distract me. So we're gonna make more money, protect the money, budget the money, leverage your money, meaning safely, right? And improve our financial skills. I know you have a book, you've got books you're reading. One of them was Psychology of Money, right? We talked about Cash Flow Quadrant by Robert Kiyosaki. Who's read that? Al, but you have. Yeah. If you have, great, read it again. And if you haven't, read it. Cash Flow Quadrant is probably it's probably my favorite financial literacy book. And then he also wrote Financial IQ, which is also very, very good. So read more books, and you can do that together as a group. Right now, we all know that investors are just stacking money up and waiting to buy, right? So are you all commercial or just some of you, just David? Okay.
Mostly resident.
Okay, all right,
They're
cool.
just wealth builders.
That's fantastic. Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter what kind.
So as we go into the recession, what do we need to do to make sure we're bulletproof? My top 5, I'll give you my top 5. First of all, build reserves. Does everyone in here know, what do you think you need to have in terms of reserves? How many months in business and personal?
6 to a year.
Yeah, 6 months.
Yeah. A minimum of 6 months. We prefer a year, both business and personal. A lot of people just don't realize they have to have both, but you need to build your reserves. If you have that checked off, great. If you don't, make sure you're heading in the right direction. Batten down the hatches, because this recession is definitely coming. Systems in place, your database. I was just talking to Christy and Chris about this. It doesn't seem to matter how many thousands of agents I talk to over a span of 20 some years. I can't even think of more than a small handful that really understand the value of mining your database, managing it at a high level, and building your business through that. And I've talked to a lot of top producers, but when I say have your system in place for your database, I mean, do you have your 36 touch dialed in so that it's automated and systematized, so that the people who are in your database are hearing from you on a regular basis, including, through command, you can do smart plans, right? You can send out newsletters and postcards and holiday things and monthly updates and include the calls that you need to include for A's, B's, and C's. Obviously, we don't call it B's and C's as often. You have to have a plan in place. But if you'll do that, it becomes a simple math equation. And what we know is the numbers are, out of every 10 people in your database, if you do a good job, that will result in 1 unit for you, 1 closed unit. So if you want to do 20 deals this year, how many people do you need to have in your database? 200.
200. Yeah.
If you want to do 50 deals this year, how many people do you have? So you just use that as a metric. That's your benchmark to determine, I want to do X number of deals. How many people do I need to have in my database? And mine that database at a super high level. Christy and Chris are just sharing with me that when the lights went out with the pandemic, all of their leads, they kind of burned through and had a lot of closed business. But all of a sudden, the work they put into their database kicked in, and is that what you said, Kings? So what happened for the last 2 years? All your business was through your database?
Past clients following up.
Yeah, and that hadn't been your focus before, right? It hadn't been where your business is coming from, and all of a sudden, boom, lights go out, but that kicks in, and now your business is bulletproof. And so I'm gonna guess that you guys are gonna pay a lot of attention to that going forward, and maybe build it from 200 and some to 500 and some, because it is a predictable outcome. And isn't that nice in a business, in an industry where there's not a lot that we can say is a predictable outcome, but it is true, it's an math equation. So make sure your database is nailed down. We have wonderful people here to help you. We have smart plans. There's no reason anyone can't do that. If I ask people, and we have a spreadsheet we can share with you, do you have a personal budget? Do you know exactly what your budget is? Do you know exactly what percentage? Who in here knows exactly what percentage of their income they're living on? All right, well, good.
I do since going through this process, yeah.
Okay, great. And I shared with the spreadsheet that Darrow and I had used. And what it does is allow you to start on page 2, put in your business and your personal expenses, autoplace to page 1, put in your expected income, and it'll give you the opportunity to allocate to taxes, pay your quarterly taxes, an investment account, et cetera, and know what percentage of your income you have left, and get focused. So get focused on that. That would be an exercise I think you should do with the group, maybe the very next time. Just give it to people, have them go and fill it out and come back.
By the way, there's a Facebook group that corresponds to this group. And on there, we post lots of files. Like whenever we analyze a property, like as a group, like we always post it on there afterwards so everyone can poke at it. We'll make sure to post that spreadsheet on there so you guys can use that. It's similar. For those of you guys who've been coming, there's a net worth tracker that came from Ben Kinney that we've been using. But what I love about the one that Erica gave me is it doesn't just tell you, okay, you plug in everything, here's your net worth. You plug in all your numbers and it says, great, now here's how you should be allocating that, which I thought was really, it's an added bonus to that. So you get net worth, you do the same things, but you end up with some recommendations on where to put that money properly.
Yeah, this is really about making sure you're on track with your spending and knowing your numbers so that you can focus on, if you're living right now on 80% of your income and you want to, build passive income and get that number down to 50, or ultimately what we want to do is be building passive income so that your active income is that's optional, right? We want to not work until we die and have our last, check be at our funeral, right? From commission sales, we want to build passive streams of income. And the way that you'll do that is to do what we're talking about today, know your numbers and focus on the gap. Where are you now? Where do you want to go? And let's build the path to get there. But without doing these fundamental steps, if you get there, it'll be an accident. If you do these fundamental steps, you'll get there for sure. Wherever you plan to go, you'll get there.
Hey, Erica, I love something that you said when we spoke was that developing passive income to fund the perfect life. That's what we're all trying to achieve, right? And we got to all figure out what that means for ourselves. And that's the focus of the group.
And it can be different. It is different for everyone.
Yeah.
But if you don't know exactly what you're shooting for, and then build the bridge, build the steps, and they're usually bite-sized, so it's not like rocket science. We can do it together. But if you're at A and you don't know where B is, you can't get there, right? Or if you do, it's a massive accident. You just got really lucky. Let's not count on that. Let's just do what we know will get us there. So look for ways to cut costs. So, an example of that would be agents. I don't know if any of you are spending money on Boomtown or solo leads, but often I talk with agents who are doing that. They're not really following up on the leads. So, that would be a great place to look at your business. If you're doing that, and if you're on top of it, great. If you're not, obviously you want to cut back on that. Don't spend time on paperwork. We have, remind me the name of our transaction for you.
Chris Darrow.
I should know that. Senior mom.
She is fantastic.
Yeah, well, and you guys are all aware of the 80-20 rule, right? 20% of what we do in real estate is going to bring us 20%, 80% of our income. The 80-20 rule is going to be prevalent everywhere you go. It's just the same in marriage, right? You can be in your marriage, the top 20% of the things that you have to take care of. You can screw up the 80%, you can still be okay, right? We all know the 80-20 principle is a thing. It's the same in business. So what are the activities that are your 20% dollar productive activities in the world of real estate? What are those? There are only a few.
Calls.
Yeah, lead generating, working with buyers and sellers, negotiating, working on your business. That's it, right? What I forget?
Getting your commission check.
Okay.
That's like the number one.
Okay, well, that's gonna be your admin, take care of that. Okay, yes, Simon.
To me, a true believer is prospecting.
Yeah. Lead generating, prospecting, one and the same for sure. And so working with buyers and sellers, negotiating, working on your business. And when I say working on your business, what I mean by that is making sure you're holding your budget accountable, checking in on your marketing, your goal setting. That shouldn't take more than about 3 hours a week. Once you get your 36 touch program dialed in, you're just checking on things and holding them accountable, holding your business accountable. 3-hour window, you block your time, that's it. Everything else is a dollar productive activity you want to get back to. And literally anything else that we do, and there's a lot, right, that has to be done in our business. There's a ton, but it doesn't have to be done by us. It has to be done at a high level. And often the people who are out there, like we have hunters and skinners, right? We're hunters. I can do paperwork, but I'm not going to be very good at it. Even if I'm really good at it, I shouldn't be doing it. That's not what we should be doing, whether we're good at it or not. Be very cognizant of what's a good dollar productive use of your time. Make the rest go away. Whether it's a transaction coordinator, your own assistant, don't spend time on paperwork, because what does it cost to have somebody do paperwork? Like 20 bucks an hour? Right? What's your average commission here?
18.
About 20,000 and
About
$400 for
So,
a transaction.
Okay, so if it's $20,000 for a commission and you're in your dollar productive time, that's what you're earning. You're earning 20. So if you do want to, let's just say an example, you go on a listing presentation. It takes you about an hour to do a CMA, an hour to do a really strong listing presentation, price a listing right, and it's going to sell. That took 2 hours of your time. You earned 20,000. That's pretty good dollar productive pay. It's $10,000 an hour, correct? What if you're paying yourself to do admin work? It's $20 an hour. You're actually paying yourself $20 an hour. Would you rather earn 10,000 an hour or 20? This is not a trick question. So just know that, be very aware, and a lot of it is awareness. What's a dollar productive use of your time? Are you in that zone, or are you finding yourself in the 80%? And when you find yourself in the 80%, get out.
Yeah.
Right? Just create the awareness and hold each other accountable. Find peer partners that will, that are belligerent like me. Like, Michelle, what are you doing? Is that paperwork?
You're fired.
Okay, don't spend money on larger overhead as we go into the shifting market. You want to make sure you're not spending money. Cut the fat. Look at your budget. Look to cut 10%. Go back and do it again. Shore up your skills and rate yourself in the key areas of training. So when I talk about that, I'm talking about primarily, there are lots, but we can talk about lead generation. If you would rate yourself in on a scale of 0 to 5, 5 being I'm a black belt and 0, I'm really bad at this. And be honest with yourself, like in lead generation, 0 to 5, where are you? Buyer presentations, 0 to 5, where are you? Listing presentations, where are you? Right? And then contract knowledge, where are you? And negotiation skills. Those are the categories I would ask you to rate yourself in. And if you can rate yourself 4 or 5, good for you. If you find yourself in 0 to 3, get back in class. Right? We have great classes
And
for
if
that.
you're in leadership, it's about appointments with prospects, appointments with agents, right?
Well, that's true, but we're talking about agent population.
Right,
And
and
we're,
we have management people in there
so
too.
I really want them to check in, for sure. I want them to check in on their buyer and seller presentations. Because if you get in front of somebody, you need to know what to say so that you're 100% sure that you did the best job that can possibly be done, not the best job you can do, but just the best job that can be done to make sure that results in closed business. And that's going to be your skill sets. You need to brush them up. Chris, we just had Chris Glover here, Jeff Glover. And Stacy was saying he was, doing this presentation. He does like 80 listing sales a year himself, and his company, his team does about 1,000, right? But he's doing this to keep his finger on the pulse. And his listing presentation today, he said, is not the same as his listing presentation was 2 months ago. You have to evolve. The market's changing. You can't stay the same. So check in on your skill sets and make sure that you're rating yourself, really be brutally honest, and then wherever you need to shore it up, get together with Ad or Simon and figure out what class you need to get into to move yourself to a 4 or 5 in that category. And last but not least, just understand the importance of who you're hanging out with. I think you guys are very cognizant of that we know that the 5 people you spend the most time with, you're gonna be average of those people. So, you know, like if you're hanging out with 5 drunks, you're the 6th, right? If you're hanging out with 5 really, you know, heavy hitters and productive people, you're gonna be the 6th. Just make sure you evaluate your crowd. I've done this. I mean, recently in my own life, I actually went through my friends list and thought, honestly, I love these people. They drink too much. I can't hang out with them, right?
Oh.
So, you're right. I mean, you just have to constantly be trimming the branches and making sure these key areas that you're evaluating yourself honestly, and making sure you're moving forward. So the state of the economy is not the state of your business, right? We get that. Your spending is your GDP. So, you know, again, be really conscious of your spending habits and reel it in, because right now it's going to be a good time to do that, not 6 months from now when you'll go, gosh, I really wish I had. To build a wealthy life, I can't even express adequately how important this is to figure out what enough is. We touched on it. You have to know what is the number that's your freedom plan. Like, what is it? Is it, you know, 5 million? Is it 10 million? What is the number that at the end of the day is going to provide you enough passive income so that you can support and fund the life of your dreams? And if you know what you're shooting for, you can build a plan to get there. And if you don't know what you're shooting for, well, you can live like me, because I didn't know. And then for the longest time, my background was, you know, I was a starving single mother by the time I'm 18 years old. I don't recommend that path, but that was my path. And I didn't have any safety net. So every day was just run fast and jump over whatever obstacles there are. And it became a habit. I managed it, did really well. And at the end of the day, I never really felt settled, which he had to deal with. I'm feeling like, gosh, I never really feel safe. Like there's, you know, and without knowing that number, you get to live with that level of discomfort. Most people, if you interview really successful people, you will find that at the end of the day, what drove them is usually fear. It's usually fear of some sort. So fear can be a good thing. It can drive you as long as you don't let it harness you and you harness it instead. But I'm just telling you, know what your enough number is so that you can sort of minimize that noise. We all have it. It's coming from
Are
something.
you talking about the net worth number?
Right, passive income, net worth, it will drive your passive income. So know what your number is. So I'm obnoxious and bougie. So that's what my daughter says. But so my number is, I have to know to sleep at night. I have to know that I have a minimum of $600,000 coming in passively if I turn off the tap on my business. I can't. That's my number. Whatever your number is, your number is. But if I don't have 600,000 a year coming in, not active income, then I'm not going to sleep. So know what your number is, and you want to sleep well, know what your number is. And then I'd run past it sometime years ago and didn't know and just kept running, right? And then we got together with the financial planner, because I can make money and grow money, but I wasn't able to do compounding in my head to forecast the future. What will it look like in 5, 10, 15, 20 years, right? So you have to hang out with the right people, and then they can go, oh, you got there a long time ago, you're fine, just go to sleep. Right? But I didn't know.
And that number extrapolates from financial planners that we learned.
Well, and we don't turn our money over to them. We are all about real estate, right? So we have grown our income and our passive income.
But that net worth, if you take out about 4% of your net worth on an annual basis to get to her 600,000 a year, would be 15 million, right?
Yeah.
So you need 15 million net worth to generate 600,000 a year. If you
Without
take
touching principal, correct?
well, no,
Yes.
that's touching principle.
No.
If you have no income.
We don't want to get in a fight right here in front of them.
But just know 15 million is the operative number, right?
Yeah, so I do like to be very conservative again, because I like to sleep. And so for me, it's 4% overall is what I'm going to count on. So if our assets are, whatever, 15 million or 30 million, whatever they are, it doesn't matter, times 4%, that's going to give me the comfort of knowing without selling something, without refining something, I can pretty much count on this is going to be my steady stream of passive income, right? So you just have to know what is enough, what are you shooting for, and then build the bridge.
And what she's saying there is that the net worth is mainly properties or activities that generate passive income.
Yeah.
Whether it be stocks, bonds, dividends, any kinds of investments you make, they're paying you income quarterly or annually or monthly. And those add up to that 600,000 per year. So, and we're just throwing this out as an example.
So know your numbers, it's everything.
So if you want 60,000 a year, you just need 1.5 million.
Yeah, I mean, not everybody needs, I know I'm ridiculous, but but if you were looking for 100,000 a year, great, do that. I mean, what I don't want for anyone in this room is, or in that room, I don't want anyone to be in a position where you're looking forward to living on Social Security, or you feel like you have to sell because you need the check. So I want you to get to the point where you've generated passive income from the work that you're doing during your working and active years, and you can quit whenever you want. At some point you might like, I want to retire, and Social Security is poverty, so I'm not doing that, right? That's
Well,
just
you're
not,
gonna do it.
I don't care. He cares about Social Security. It's lit up like a Christmas tree, right? I'm like,
It's passive income.
Yeah, no, it doesn't excite me.
No, we don't pay for it.
Well, we pay for it ourselves,
That's the past. I don't even think, I can't even remember an hour ago. I only work in the future. My head doesn't go backwards. So I'm like, yeah, moving on. So your success will be determined by the number of things you say no to. We should all have that tattooed on ourselves somewhere. So
What is it?
your success will be determined by the number of things you say no to. And again, that's going to tie people like right back into that 80-20 principle. Figure out a dollar productive use of your time is while you're working, in your relationships. Figure out the things that are most important for you to be doing to maintain your healthy relations with your kids, your spouse. It's always about what's in the top 20% and figuring out how to make everything else go away. Say no. And the more things you say no to, every time you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. And just being, keeping that in mind will help you. Just think about that.
That goes for spending money as much as it does for activities too, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's a wants needs thing, right? Is it something I want or is it something I need?
Yeah.
Right. And I stopped doing want spending a long, long time ago. It's like I look at something and I'm like, oh, I don't need that. Right? No. Yeah. Just back away. So it's all tied together. So calendar, stay true to those 3 to 5 things that matter. That's the 80-20 principle. And we talked about rating yourself. So rate yourself really strongly in your database, your contract knowledge, your lead gen, buyer presentation, seller presentation, negotiating skills. And here's the thing I want. How many of you were in business during the recession? How many were in real estate? Yeah, so not all of you, but some of you, right? 2 of them. 2 of them, I know, right? I know the 80s were brutal. I was in London when they all shut down. It was fun. But anyway, it was weird for me, a weird experience that I had probably, I don't know what year did we really start pulling out of the recession, but it was rough. I mean, a lot of people didn't make it through. A lot of people, even my age, were moving back in with their parents because they had lost everything and they crashed and burned. They hadn't done the things that we're talking about. They didn't build reserves. They weren't focused on these very, very foundational things. And they just sank. They didn't make it. And it was tragic. And in my market center in Boise, and here too, we were writing checks sometimes for $30,000 to $40,000 a month just to keep the doors open so the agents would actually have a place to work. And by the end of the recession, we were, you're gonna going through everything you were built, you have to start over. Those are some pretty intense lessons. So, I mean, following the recession, I would drive into my parking lot in Boise, and I have a pretty nice car, but I would drive into my parking lot and I'd have the worst car in the parking lot. I mean, I'm not kidding you. Everybody around, I'm looking and all my agents are buying these beautiful, big, shiny cars. And you know what else they have? Big, shiny payments. And like, were they not on planet Earth with me during the recession? I mean, so many people just didn't keep the lessons. So don't do that, right? You've been through it and you know what I'm talking about. And if you haven't, just skip it. Don't do any of the things that will get you in trouble. So these are the things we're going to check on, and then I'm going to turn it over to Darrow. Let's just quickly check on your financial fitness, okay? Because wealth is nothing but an accumulation of habits. That's all that wealth is. It's an accumulation of habits. So check on your financial fitness, have a stated profit goal. If you have one, fantastic. If you don't, state one today. How many appointments are required to reach your profit goal? And I really want you all to know this.
Is profit goal like their gross commission income?
Well, yes, you could be that. I mean, you could look at it a number of ways, but for our purposes, we're gonna go with GCI, right? And then you'll manage your finances correctly and you'll know what your net is. But how many appointments are required for you to reach that profit goal of your GCI? If you wanna make 500,000 this year, how many appointments are required? And then Stacy's coming back to teach business planning, I think in October.
Yeah,
Because we teach it every year at the end of the year so that no one walks into the next year without a very detailed business plan, so that you know exactly what you're gonna do and exactly what your income will be. Please commit to that. And then you'll know how many appointments and what your business will look like with complete accuracy, really. Use a written budget for your business. Hopefully you're all doing that. Use a P&L and review it monthly. If you're doing that, great. If you're not, it's very easy to create. Contribute to a tax savings account and pay your taxes quarterly. I can't even tell you how many agents I talked to that are being haunted by not having paid their quarterly taxes, and then they have this hump on their shoulders and they ride through life like that. That's a bad plan. Don't do that. Pay your estimated taxes. Have a tax advisor or CPA. I learned a long time ago you do nothing without your attorney on one side and your CPA on the other. So make sure you're in business and in relationship with a very, very strong CPA. Use MREA chart of accounts and know what your margins are comparing to the MREA chart of accounts. Do you cover that?
we haven't gone over that. We do more like, we haven't gone into stuff about within your real estate business. We do more like, how to manage your finance, wealth building up
Okay,
after
well,
that.
and I'm gonna ask
But yeah,
you
we can go back.
back
and do
up a
that.
couple of steps,
Yeah.
because it'll be a lot easier to nail all the things you have been talking about if you fill in these blanks.
In fact, as you were talking, I was thinking it'd be great to have, we'll have 1 week where bring your laptop, bring QuickBooks, bring Quicken, and we'll show you how to set it up.
Oh my gosh.
We'll step by step set up your, what's that?
It's so exciting. Hi. It's good to see you. All right, so then you're gonna do that, right? You're gonna get that done, and then know the average cost of each of your transactions. Most agents I talk with individually, and I usually just coach one-on-one. I'm not usually in front of groups because, I'm a recluse. But most of the people that I talk to, they don't know initially what the average cost of their transactions are. Know what your business costs, even if you don't make money. So I just had one of my top 100 agents who has been with me for 1,000 years, is in Gary Keller's top 100 group, say, gosh, how's the market center doing? Are you feeling a shift yet? Because my business is feeling a shift and I only have, like she said, 6 transactions closing in May and I need 8 to break even. Yeah, first of all, we need to talk, right? If you have to have 8 closed transactions to support your business, we'll talk about it here. That's not okay. But at least know, what does your business cost if you're making no money? Do you know that number now? If you do, great. If you don't, this would be a really good time to peel that back and figure it out. So last and not least, have no consumer debt. If you can't afford to pay it off at the end of the month, you can't afford it. It's just that simple. We're living in a culture everywhere, really, but in LA, we know it's a lot more prevalent where you see people that want a money signal. So that's the way that they feel like they need to show up with the fancy cars and the fancy clothes and the jewelry, maybe wait before they really earn the right. It's that keep up with the Joneses mentality, and the Joneses really aren't that cool. So don't do any of that. But
Do not be a TV realtor.
well, people want to, they tend to want admiration and respect, and that's the way that they want to get it. So they want admiration, they want respect, and so they do what I call money signaling. And really, the people that are compassionate and kind are just going to have a lot more horsepower at the end of the day than those who are just out there looking fancy that are in debt. I've known a lot of people who, their businesses are going under, they're bankrupt, and they're driving around in Maserati, custom suit. I'm like, you're not cool. It's not cool. It's got to be so much pressure. So no, none of that. So no consumer debt, and I mean it. And I'm going to turn this over to Darrow, and you guys will talk about investment analysis
We
or
will?
anything you want to. Yeah.
Okay.
Because he asked me, here's the thing, Ed was asking me, how do we analyze properties? And I said, really, I really rely on you. I won't buy anything without running it by. And I recommend this to a lot of our people who we're in relationship with in our businesses. If you want to, I wouldn't buy anything until you run it by him and then it's bulletproof. Because he loves to do that. And there's no one better on earth at analyzing investments than Darrow. And one of the things that I've learned and, we pass on to all of our people is that 1% rule, which is sort of a gauge that he uses. So you take it from there and run with that.
And I really appreciate your thought on that. And there are
No.
lots of people out there who know how to analyze property. I'm just one of
Yeah.
them.
No, you're just, he's very humble, which I like a lot, but he's really the best at analyzing properties. Like I said earlier, more angles at a pool table, sees things that other people don't. And even if you're really good at it, isn't it just good to get a second opinion? They might see something that you don't. And this is a resource that we have here. We have each other, and we need to lean on each other for our gift zones. And not enough people, in my opinion, not enough people take us up on it, right?
So if you were to set a goal of 5,000 a month passive income, as an example, 60 grand a year that you wanted to generate for yourself by say the age of 60, how could you get there? You could do it $200, $300, $400 a month at a time per property, or you could do it with one fell swoop. If you were to generate 5,000 a month income on a property net, what would it have to be grossing in order to get that net? Think of the gross income on a property after expenses, taxes, insurance, maintenance, repairs, repair reserves, property management, utilities. A single family residence, as an example, takes about 50% of the gross income for expenses. So if you were to buy a $2 million house and you were able to rent it for $10,000 a month, does that make sense? Is it 10,000 too high on a $2 million house?
No.
But let's say if it was 10,000 a month and you have 5,000 a month in expenses, now you're at 5,000 a month income. Your passive income is done. What's not in there? You have to pay all cash, right? You have it free and clear. It's a $2 million house and now you have 5,000 a month income. All you have to do is buy 5 of those and you're set, right? You've got 5 times 5,000, 25,000 a month income for the rest of your life. And you never sell those houses. That's exactly what the REITs are doing out there. That's exactly what Warren Buffett and Blackstone and all these big companies are doing. They're buying single families, turning them into cash cows instead of building units because it costs more to build than what they're buying. So all these houses they're picking up, it's a deal for them because it's cheaper than replacement costs.
No bunny trailer.
Well, and I'm just throwing it out to you.
This is one of he's really passionate about these
If you
big
can pay,
companies.
if you can pay cash for a property or pay a property off, you've set yourself up with the passive income you want. So, and then if you have to leverage it, how fast can you pay off the loan to get to your 5,000 a month net? Now, does that sound hard or easy? Easy, right? I mean, especially if you live in a house and you're going to trade up to another house and you don't need to sell it to buy the next one, that becomes your cash cow, right? Your passive income opportunity. And never sell it because then you don't have any costs associated with the sale. But what most people do is they keep trading and trading and they don't keep anything and they're not building any passive income. Does that make sense?
So like, for example, say you're buying $1 million property, instead of putting, say, you could put 30% down on a 30-year fixed and get it to be slightly cash flow positive. So it has some income, but it's going to take 30 years to pay off to where it's really going to pay more. Maybe if you put down, instead of 30% down, you put down 40% down and took a 15-year mortgage so that it was still, whatever you have to put down, enough so it's still positive income, but that way at least it's paying off, within 15 years rather than 30 years, right?
And that same thing works for a duplex, a triplex, a 4-unit, a 10-unit, a 20-unit, it doesn't matter. If you think about just the gross income that building's generating and the net income that is left after all the expenses, and you have to get real in the expenses. That's where I find most agents or most investors, they say, oh yeah, I'm at break even. And I know what that means, right? When they say they're at break even, is there anything that actually breaks even on the dollar or the penny? No, it's either negative or positive. So, and what I find is when we go through the numbers with the owners, they very rarely consider all the expenses that are a part of that investment. So the 1% rule, which I learned from a realtor in Michigan, Marshall Redder.
Yeah.
He was a mentor of mine years ago, a top realtor who did 300 or 400 transactions a year. Said that the 1% rule means that if your income is equal to 1% of the value of the property on a monthly basis, you should be taking a look at that investment. You want investments that yield 1% monthly are a really good investment, and those above 1% are great investments. Those below 1%, you have to start analyzing heavily and figure out if they're a match for you or not.
Is it for the gross or the net?
It's the gross.
So is that the same calculation as gross rent multiplier?
No, gross rent multiplier is the annual income times a factor.
Okay.
To equal the value. So the 1% rule is about cash flow.
Got it.
So if that, as an example, that $2 million house that rents for $10,000 a month, right? $10,000 a month is what percentage of $2 million?
Half.
0.5%. So that's the 0.5% rule, right? And if you own it free and clear, you'll have cash flow, but if you put a loan on it, you won't. Basically, I mean, you have $5,000 a month to play with on $10,000 of income. You could find some amount of loan. And if you're going to have positive cash flow for yourself out of that net 5,000, and let's say you want 1,000 a month, you have 4,000 for debt service, you could get a loan for about 800,000, right? Does that make sense? So that means you need $1.2 million as a down payment to break even with a 30-year loan that's 40% loan to value. Does that make sense? So let's go a little smaller backwards. If it's a 4-unit building, what does a 4-unit building rent for around here? What are rents monthly? 1,500, 2,000 a month?
About 10,000 combined.
10,000?
If it's smaller in say Hawthorne.
And how much is it?
2 million, 2 to 3 million, something like that, right? Is
Okay,
that-
we got our $2 million 4-unit with 10,000 a month gross. Now what's our net? After property management, expenses and everything else, Michelle, what would be the net on that?
The 35% is what we calculate on expenses.
Is that reasonable or conservative? Or
That's-
liberal? Is it really more? If they have a replacement
Not when
reserve?
we manage it.
That's cute.
We manage it to 30 to 35%.
Do you?
That's how we change the cap rates, right?
Okay,
To make it
Right.
feasible cap
so
rate.
35% expenses on and that's gotta be on a newer building. If it was older, it'd be higher percentage.
Yes,
So if it's 35%, now you have 65% of the net income
right.
to fund debt service and give you cash flow. Does that make sense? So now you have a $2 million investment that's generating 4 rents, which when you have a vacancy doesn't hurt you as bad as when a single family goes vacant, right? Because single family is 100% vacant when the tenant moves out. In a 4-unit, you only have 25% vacancy if one person moves out. So you can manage it through, manage the income easier through a 4-unit property. And you get single family financing, right?
Right.
It's 1 to 4-unit financing. So the 1% rule is a great gauge, and you can use that going anywhere. I mean, you can go to Barstow, or you can go to Hemet, or you can go to Palmdale, and single families work the same way. If you can find a $500,000 house that rents for $5,000 a month, that's the 1% rule. You can find a $1 million house that rents for $10,000 a month, that's the 1% rule. If it rents for $5,000 a month, you're at the 0.5% rule. If it rents for $3,000 a month, you're at the 0.3% rule. Well, if expenses are 50% of your income, you don't have any net, even paying all cash for it. You're not going to have much left. Yes.
So in LA area
Yes.
where you're looking at, I don't think the 1% growth is going to really apply.
I mean, houses in Compton are 500,000 now, right? And they rent for how much? 1,500, 2,000?
They're renting better now, like close to like 2,000.
2,000, but that's 2 of 5 is what? The 0.4% rule? So
So in other words, what can we hang ourselves on or hang our hat on over here? Knowing that at least the millionaire real estate investment say, you should invest within 60 miles of where you live.
who said that?
No, no, real estate.
It's in the book.
No.
Okay.
Well, you know what? That book was written 20 years ago too, right?
Okay.
And that was before zip codes and area codes went away with the internet. basically, and Zillow wasn't here yet, and, statewide MLSs weren't here yet. So a lot of things have broken down those barriers, right, to understand that you can now look at property anywhere in the state under MLS, right? I mean, you guys are realtors, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you remember the MLS? I do. I look at properties all over the place. And you can look all over the country through Zillow and Redfin and all the other sources that are information aggregators, right? So,
When you say that, you're talking about for one of your clients or investing for yourself?
No, I'm just looking at, I just wanna be,
open.
when you're talking with clients, right? The 1% is, so I guess what I wanted to see is the factor that I always look at is that if you're looking, investment could be in the now, but it could also be, the profit later on, because you also know you're gonna build equity over a period of time.
That's great, and I didn't mean to interrupt you. I agree. Buying for appreciation is a different model than buying for cash flow, right? Cash flow can change your life today. Appreciation won't do anything for you. Typically, it doesn't do anything for people even later until they use it to pay other bills. Send somebody to college, buy a car, pay for, pardon me?
Your kids will let you.
Yeah, the kids will love you, right? So appreciation really won't change your life as it stands today. And it may not even in the future, assuming you live long enough to take that appreciation out. And who knows what the tax ramifications will be at that time. But cash flow changes your life today. And what you want to do, I mean, at least that's been our belief, Erica's mine, is to maximize passive income and get it to replace all your active income. So you don't have to work. Or you can work at things that you enjoy. That are your option, right?
So you don't have to be, if it's for clients in town, that's different, but you can always refer people to, and agents aren't doing enough of that. But you should be looking in other places.
Yeah, I look how many people gone to Vegas to buy investment property, or Texas or Arizona, or, cost per unit, where cost per units and the 1% rule are closer to 1. During a recession, we may see opportunities here that go from 0.4 or 0.5 to 0.6 or 0.7, for cash flow. And that just means you need to have a good down payment, right? You need 30% down on a 0.7 property to have it make sense. But you need 50% down on a 0.5 property to have it make sense. It's still just gonna be, a slight break even. So it's really simple. Industrial works the same way, commercial office buildings work the same way. All you need to know are the gross numbers, the expenses, and once you get familiar with them, you'll realize and you'll learn that the percentage of expenses can be averaged based on the type of property, right? Michelle, I mean, you've seen
Yes.
that over and over, right?
Yeah.
And the key for us is finding a great property manager. So if you're out of state and you're not obviously going to be able to manage it on your own, and probably shouldn't anyway. We're huge fans of not managing our own property because that's an 80% activity for us, right? So it's finding a great property manager and then, finding those investments and being set for success.
And I'm a CCIM, and I've bought, in the first 3 years of my business, when I got into real estate, I bought 12 properties, all with 3 to 6% down, a key number, right, based on my commissions. And then a recession came along, and they were all, did they positive cash flow with 94% financing? Right? No, they did not. They never had a chance. And by the time a recession came along, then all of a sudden they were worth a lot less than even the loan amounts. So what happens? They go back to the bank, right? And I didn't learn that lesson. I learned that lesson the hard way. So, and what I was doing was following other realtors around who were just buying good deals, right? And buy good deals, and it wasn't about having a plan to work from or setting a cash flow plan to follow or buying for cash flow. It was about buying for appreciation, which never came along. I never got past my 3 or 6% equity. And you guys have seen a lot of equity grow in a lot of your properties, but are any of them cash flowing, right? Are they investment properties or the ones you live in? If they're the ones you live in, it doesn't matter because it's your home, right? It's not going to cash flow. Your home is always negative cash flow. But the investment properties, now you want to look at the income and see if you can go take that equity and improve on the income with a larger property. or a more expensive property. If you can increase your income on that same amount of equity, that's when you exchange. Right?
Yeah, I'm gonna make a comment on that, as far as cash flow and appreciation.
Yes,
If you guys want to get a financial freedom, first objective should be the cash flow, because without the cash flow, you can't really think about if you're
Yeah,
starving, if
exactly.
you're really
Yeah.
struggling yourself, you can't really think about what's gonna happen 5 years from now, 10 years from now.
I
So
mean, yeah, we got it. We appreciate the appreciation that we've all experienced. I mean, we have a substantial number of units. And of course, we've ridden the wave like the rest of the world has, and we have a lot of, a lot of appreciation, a lot of equity we used to have. But it doesn't change our cash flow. And ultimately, yes, rents go up. But you're right. I mean, it's all about cash flow. We don't focus on anything else.
we focus on getting rid of debt too.
Oh, well,
So we have very few properties with debt. And our goal is to get everything free and clear. We're pretty close, but we're almost there. So once you own everything free and clear and the all cash flow, doesn't matter what the economy does. It doesn't matter.
That's the
So
promise.
what you want to do is get to that position at whatever level you see fit for yourself in the future and work towards that goal. But you have to have a written plan to follow it. And like she said, the number, you need to have a number to shoot for. And if you're making 100,000 a year as an agent, why not make 100,000 a year at passive income? I mean, then now you're just replacing your lifestyle with passive income and being able to live the same way you are working as you would be not working. Is that a cool plan? You know, for a lot of people, I think it is. Or if you want it to be higher or lower, it's up to you, based on other sources. Now, Social Security is a big number. No, it's not. But so real estate, as I said earlier, I'm a CCIM. They learn to teach you to do all these spreadsheets, to learn internal rates of return, you know, return on investment, return on the capital improvements, return on all this stuff. And I've worked with all these doctors and lawyers selling them investment properties, doing spreadsheets initially. And what I realized after years of doing this, and I've been a realtor since 1978, is that all they wanted to know is how much of the check do they get at the end of the month?
Yeah.
That's all anybody wants is what am I gonna get paid, right, Michelle?
Yeah.
Your people you manage property for, they just wanna know what their income's gonna be, whether it be quarterly or monthly or annually. Just like you do in your own savings accounts, right? You wanna see what your interest is.
So what you're saying is don't make it complicated.
Yeah, don't make it complicated. We found that people who make it simple are fun to be around, and the people who make it complex are not so much fun. Does that seem
Well, it's
realistic?
not really all about having fun, but
Oh.
I think, but the truth is that the numbers work, and it doesn't have to be complex for the numbers to work. You just have to know what to focus on. You have to have a plan. And then backing it up, like we talked about, you have to have your business plan in place and make it rock solid to earn the income so that you can create an investment strategy and take properties down.
Mhm.
And I'm a huge fan of, he and I vary a little bit on this, but I think he's coming along. I don't like single family
I'm a work in
homes.
progress.
I don't like single family homes are not my thing. I get that the numbers can work, but I don't like if you have a tenant move out, you gotta replace carpet and paint and all that stuff. You got 100% vacancy. I like lower risk. So for me, a 4-unit with the lower risk of if a tenant moves out, I've got 3 others still paying, just feels better. And it's very individual. But I think for a lot of us, lower risk investing it pays off.
Mhm.
And you can, like your idea of the 0.5% cash flow scenario, get 2 people together and buy a duplex and have them each live in each side. You know, people are looking to own their own home but can't afford it. Sell them a 4-unit where they have 2 tenants helping them pay their mortgage.
Oh, and that's another thing we should just touch on, partners, because you can get there faster if you partner often. So if you have someone you really feel comfortable about partnering with, and you just set a goal, we're gonna save X amount, we're gonna buy a property that costs X, we're gonna have this is gonna be our cash flow. That's a great way to do it, as long as you make sure that your partners are people who aren't gonna make things complicated. And they're
Simple things.
they're gonna think like you, right? So we have partners, we have apartment building as an example, we have a partner with, and we're such a good match. We know that at any time if one of us wants to sell, no problem, get an appraisal, buy the other one out. There's nothing to argue about, fuss about, fight about, but you have to be really careful because partners in business is just as important to pick the right ones as picking your partner in life. Sometimes even more important. That's the lesson we've learned.
You know what?
He had some partners that I had to almost have put to sleep.
I did not make good choices in the past, quite possibly.
yeah.
But when I started the business, I would take two people that were unrelated, sell them a duplex in Hermosa Beach, 2 blocks from the water, because they couldn't afford to live that close in a single family each. And they each lived and they agreed, bought it, put together, back then they were called TICs, tenants in common agreements, but now they use LLCs for those types of scenarios. And the two of them who were totally unrelated bought a duplex, moved in each half, were very happy. One of them ended up getting married a few years later and basically rented out his half with the approval of the other co-owner, and it became an investment property for that. And it went on, and then eventually the partner who stayed in the house bought out the other partner who had left. So you can do that with your people, with your buyers who want to own property but can't afford to buy something on their own. Sell them a duplex, sell them a 3-unit or a 4-unit, and they're in every community. You know, they're on the MLS. You can find them, right? The cool thing about it is there are fewer people after them than single families, right? So you won't have to make as many offers to get one tied up as you would on a single family. Yes.
We have to ask him any questions because it's Minnie's turn.
Oh, it's Minnie's turn. Oh, where's Minnie?
He went to go get the other Zoom started, but he said just let you know.
Okay.
But yeah,
He said don't
So-
be in a hurry to wrap it up.
What we're trying to show you is that it's really simple to invest and to grow and build passive income. You can always build passive income through savings accounts, you know, those types of scenarios. No, I mean, you can earn like 0.7% on a high yield savings account at Marcus.
but this is one of the luxuries of being in our industry. We have
Yeah.
access to all of this information and opportunity. And then you just have to create a plan and take advantage of it.
Don't be afraid to buy in Michigan or Ohio. or-
Florida, we're buying Florida.
I mean, you can buy anywhere. And, you know, planes fly everywhere. And there are realtors everywhere. And there's KW realtors everywhere. So, and there's good ones everywhere too. So you don't have to make it hard on yourself. It's just a matter of saving up enough to make that investment, right? So
One of the things that we've been doing that's kind of fun is that, for those of us who come regularly, is somebody will volunteer and they'll pick, you know, a mystery spot for the next week, and then they'll pick some place on the map and they'll analyze a property there and talk about what makes that place tick, and is it a good place to invest? What do they see in there? And we go through their property analysis together, just kind of see what's
great.
experience different places. So we look at Corpus Christi, Denton,
Nice. It's
Texas,
a good area.
Nashville,
Nashville's hot.
Ohio,
Nashville's hot.
Henderson, Nevada. That was
Nice, that's a hot spot too for investing. Just North Dakota, South Dakota, but it's still about cash flow,
Yeah.
right? What are the rents? What kind of condition is the building in? I think the newer the building you can get, the better, because you have fewer replacement costs going on. And just remember, as the building gets older, the expenses go up because you have replacements of roofs, AC units, heating, and all those issues. So you just have to have reserves built up for it in your cash flow scenario to keep those going. So older buildings, expenses could be as high as 50%, especially if they're master metered. Master metered buildings are the buildings you try not to get involved in at all costs, because it's a mess with master meters. So when a hot water system goes out, the whole building's down, and it's really expensive to fix. So,
What questions?
questions?
Well, it's more a comment for me, so thank you both for providing us some valuable information. And it's funny because my first investment was in Ontario. I ended up buying a fourplex with my brother.
Nice.
My brother and I bought a fourplex, and eventually that fourplex we ended up selling, and then ended up, as I mentioned to you the other day, ended up buying three units for a total of 12 units in Golden State, Arizona.
Nice.
To this day, I still have two, are almost paid off. One kind of leveraged a little bit, but I have positive cash flow. Even though Bullhead said, if anyone knows, doesn't appreciate quick enough.
Who
But
cares
the
about
rental
appreciation?
income is still coming in.
It's about the rent.
So I do the happy dance every month. Yeah.
You know, it's not about the appreciation anyway.
Exactly,
Even if it goes down in value, if the rents go up, who cares?
exactly.
Right? Cash flow is cash flow, and the money's green everywhere. It doesn't matter. You know, if you have a place you're from and you like that area, go back and buy some of that stuff. I'm from Michigan, I still haven't gone back to Michigan to buy it.
I know a great home.
She won't let me know.
It's like, what about Detroit?
Had we won the Great Recession.
I know, you're not wrong.
And another takeaway that I got that Ed mentioned was, the 30-year fix. So what I started doing was putting more principal to the loan, so that way we can condense that 30-year into a 20-year mortgage.
Sure.
If you do, principal.
Yeah, if
on
you just
the
take your
income.
rent and apply it to
Exactly.
principal, that's great.
So that's how I was able to pay them out faster.
And you brought up a good point there. I think 30-year mortgages are the way to go and pay them off faster when you have the cash flow to do it. But you always have a safety valve there to
Yeah.
fall back to
Not
the
locked in.
30-year amortization.
That's smart.
Because a 15-year amortization is tight, and it's for that half a point or a quarter point difference in the interest rate, it may not be worth it.
Yeah,
for
some
the
months
cash
you
flow.
might wish you hadn't.
Right. So,
Thank you guys
Yeah.
so much
I got a
for.
question about
yes,
return on equity, where you have something that's paid off.
Mhm.
And getting the return of the rent, but the equity is not really working as hard. Is there a period of time, for example, if you are accumulating for a certain time, it's okay to have a shorter term and pay off as much as you can so you can build equity, but at some point, that becomes dead money that's sitting there that could be actually returning more money by getting it out.
I think what you're saying is that your return isn't high enough for the equity
Yes.
you have, you exchange.
Yeah,
Right?
well, exchange, but see, but the point is not to be selling the property, but actually getting cash out and buying another one.
well, then you can if you plan on leveraging into your next property.
Yeah,
Right.
so do you ever look at the return on equity at all, or?
Well, what I find most people don't care about it, what they care about is what's their net income on that next property. And how does it affect my cash flow on this property borrowing against it? Because somewhere you're gonna trade off cash flow for that loan.
Right.
And it's gonna reduce the income on this property, so why go buy the other one if the income's still gonna be the same and now you have more debt?
We tend to do
Net
monopoly in our world,
So
you
you're
know.
just not enough.
We get to a certain point where we go, we're ready to jump to the larger property. Right?
But there are people young enough, especially in this room, to be able to do that and outlive those loans and have them free and clear by the time they're 40 or 50 years old. And that's a great strategy. It's not a wrong strategy. It's just about where you are in your life, what age you're at, and how fast you can build that passive income. Right? Because a lot of people will go out and buy a whole bunch of property and use all the cash flows to pay down the loans. And then by the time 10 or 20 years comes along, they own them all free and clear and they're done.
Mhm.
Right? So that's a cool strategy. I wish I had learned that when I was 22, 23 in the business, right? But I wasn't ready to hear it. So
You did
it was,
okay.
it was probably out there, not until I met you.
Oh, God. Okay, so-
Well, this was awesome.
Thank you so much.
Plus feedback through Ed or any other way that if you actually, make some changes in your business and commit to whatever it is, if it's really committing to your database and getting predictable numbers for your income so that you can buy these investment properties, whatever it is you take away from this and implement, it would be great to get some feedback.
Actually, I think you did this maybe a couple of years back.
Uh-huh.
And it's definitely worked very well. While I was taking my bowl stuff, I always look like, okay, what property can we get into? Our goal was just to get 7. That was the number I had in my head.
What was the number?
7.
Okay,
$7?
yeah, so property.
7
Oh,
properties.
7 properties.
And how quickly can we pay them off? Now, again, I kind of went by the real estate investors stuff. I actually prefer in the beginning the single family house, 'cause,
You're comfortable with it.
I think a lot of us start there.
Yeah,
right?
so we started there, and then, after your presentation, I was talking with Steve, Ryan, and we've done some exchanges from a single to a duplex, but there were duplex that are standalone type of thing too. I don't like to manage personality that much, so. And it's worked well, and luckily, we just refinanced a few properties in the beginning of this year, to 15
yeah.
When
years.
rates were low, right?
And we were able to,
Free money,
yeah,
yeah, right.
That's great.
How many units do you have now?
8. So,
Nice.
That's great.
And
Right,
what's
what are
your,
you shooting for?
what's your passive income?
Well, we've kind of hit it already.
Okay,
Our goal was to get to 21,000,
A month?
uh,
Now, it's net, right?
yeah. So with the refi that we've done, my goal was to have like $3,000 rent in each one. So now we got 8 of them, and we do average a little over $3,000 in rent.
Nice.
And so,
So that sounds like
Good for you.
gross, right?
yeah, it's close.
This is a guy that works a plan.
So you need to know what your net is too. I challenge you to figure that out so you know exactly what you're taking home on a monthly net basis.
Oh, no, trust me, I know that.
Good. And by the way, all of us know what our net in our real estate business is too, like Erica said.
Yeah.
Most of us know what we gross, but we have no idea what we net.
And we also, most people don't know the cost of doing business. They're not sure how many deals they need to do to earn. I mean, these are just, I know it sounds fundamental, but if you guys will just do this.
The average commission is 20 grand, you do 5 deals, you make 100. I mean, 5 deals shouldn't take you more than 5 weeks, so what are you doing the other,
Oh, no.
you know, the rest of the year?
Yeah, we had a little problem with that in our first meeting with other people. And Darrow said, somebody said, no filter guy, right? Somebody said, well, I did 11 deals this year. And he
Okay.
said, well, what'd you do with the other 11 months? I don't think that guy's still.